As the official healthcare provider of Minnesota United, Allina Health is focused on keeping our loons in top condition. And with expertise in orthopedics, sports medicine, heart care, and more, Allina has the team to keep your family in the game too. The experts at Allina Health take the time to get to know you as a whole person, helping you achieve wellness for your mind, body, and spirit. It's an altogether better kind of healthcare. Learn more at allinahealth.org. All right, everybody, welcome into another episode of Sound of the Loons presented by Allina Health. It's sort of a mid-season check-in, Minnesota United outlook, recap, first half, look ahead, all of the above, everything that's going on in the world of soccer. So first of all, I get to be joined by Manny Lagos, the legendary Minnesota soccer everything. And thanks, Manny, for taking the time. I know you were just out with the second team as we're just talking about like recapping what's been going on, talking about Minnesota United, what's going on. And now you're on the field with the second team. How's it going over there up at NSC?
No, I think it's great. This is a beautiful time of the year in terms of, playing outside. Our practice fields are gorgeous. It's a really nice training when you have nice fields and the tempo and the guys are working hard. And, certainly, these weeks where you have the academy kids, you have the second team, you have the first team, all kind of interacting like subtly within each other and on the fields is so cool. It really gets you excited about the club, how big it's becoming, how much and important initiatives like the second team, like the academy, and certainly how we navigate getting the first team better, both in the short and long term, is really exciting.
I got to say, speaking of, just the excitement around soccer in the state of Minnesota, I mean, the USA Cup is like just around the corner. It's going to be a complete madhouse up there.
It is. It's another element that it is, it's operationally, sometimes it's a little bit challenging just because we've got this nice private area where the kids can't quite get to, but functionally we do kind of like the kids seeing a little bit of the elements of a professional environment. And we think it's so important and so impactful for the kids, for the future of soccer in Minnesota, to have that kind of connection with the tournament. And then certainly I do think it's one of the bigger soccer festivals in the country. And we have it right here in Minnesota, right here at Minnesota United's training facility. So I really love the interaction. I love the tournament. I have some nice history there. When I was a kid and playing in it and loving soccer and playing all these different cultures. And then I actually got to have some nice moments as a father, winning it as a kid and then watching my son win it and watching the interaction he had both with the competitiveness of all the countries around the world. And then more importantly, I think it's also not only soccer, it's the experience of these cultures and just, reminding yourself and these kids that you're part of this such a cool global game that has such a cool connection by the sport.
Yeah, I know. I was talking to my daughter the other day with the trading of the pins and you're walking around with it's a USA Cup towel. But yeah, I mean, the opening ceremonies, which now are at NSC, but other times they were elsewhere. But I just think back to, same thing. There's still like this progression, but it's a huge part of what is going on up there. And as you talk about the academies and the youth teams and the twos and the first team and watching all the kids that are sometimes up in the stands in the side of the stadium field, trying to get a glimpse of what the first team is doing. But it's that whole concept of like, if you see it, you can be it. And they kind of see where they may want to get to one day. So having it up there in that space, although operationally it can be challenging, it's part of that, like just Minnesota soccer history. And it's really fun to see like the whole energy around it. And I think the Minnesota United guys, I think they appreciate it too, because if they've never experienced being up there during that time period, I think it's like next level when they get to kind of see the excitement and the young soccer players in that area.
It is. I think it keeps even our first team guys like young and reminding that they represent the community. They represent not just the ultimate goal of winning on the weekends and winning championships, but they really are setting up the next generation of people who will play soccer, who will love soccer, And there'll be some kids that will become professional soccer players because of these moments these kids have in front of these players. So again, I don't think a lot of training facilities have the uniqueness that we have. And I think that's what makes this series this special. And I think it makes the culture and environment that we're trying to create up here even more special.
Speaking of getting the importance of winning on the weekends, how about that win? I mean, compared to like what the first half sort of presented for Minnesota United and versus the second half and finishing those chances and the opportunities, kind of recapping the game against the Portland Timbers. What did you see from that match and getting a win, another win, just a second on the regular season for Minnesota United at home at Allianz Field? And I thought the crowd was fantastic on Saturday night. I mean, the energy in the stadium, which is always fabulous, but it seemed like next level. What did you think about how Minnesota United got that win?
Yeah, I love the stadium. It was rocking. I thought the fans were massively into the game in the appropriate way in terms of, the game presented a lot of adversity. And the reality is we haven't had that strong performance at home yet this year. We haven't had a definitive win at home where, we really said we're going to take control and win this game. And we've had some tough late goals against us for ties and losses. And we've had some moments where we walk off the field, we know we should have won. We just didn't finish our chances. And I felt like Saturday, we didn't actually start that strong early on. I thought we had a couple sloppy turnovers. We couldn't get the rhythm of the game. But defensively, we still really didn't give them any good chances. And we kept our shape for most of the half. And I thought the end of the half was outstanding. I think we really kind of weathered maybe some sloppiness that we don't usually have at home to really set up a 2-0 halftime score. And I think this sport doesn't create easy moments. And I think we wanted an easy night, maybe a 3 or 4-0 win. But, Portland got a goal against us against the run of play. I thought we were playing some of our best soccer when they scored. And they go to 2-1. And I think that's when the specialness of the stadium really kicked in, where the fans realized we have to make sure we support these guys because they've gone through a lot of adversity at home where we haven't quite gotten the results. And it just kind of combined. The players finished the game outstanding. 2 great goals, could have been 2 or 3 more. Really didn't give Portland a sniff after their goal. And really kind of, I thought, came into the game in a great way where we finished so strong. And to have a nice, solid 4-1 win like that at this time of the year when we have a lot of home games in hand, where we really believe we can push ourselves now to get more points at home is very exciting.
Well, and the young guys, I mean, Devin Padelford steps on the pitch once again in the left back role. And then also Emmanuel Iwe, who you just signed to a first team contract, should have probably had a goal with a great run in behind and a nice ball right up the middle. I think it was from Sang Bin. What does that say too, again, as we talk about the youngsters coming through, making an impact, signing for the first team, whatever it might be, that, Iwe could have had a goal, but also making an impact on the game.
Yeah, I mean, some great stories throughout the game. Obviously, within the first team, Ray and Bongi playing so well and so impactful in terms of their goals and assists and creating goals. And certainly the defense, again, showing some real resiliency after going down 2-1 especially. But that's a fun storyline when you have 2 players coming in at key parts of the game to make an impact. And both are local youth products, one hailing from Woodbury with the St. Croix Academy and the other from St. Louis Park, who was found through a trial, is awesome. I mean, it's another part of the stadium connection that I think was so special. And I think a lot of the fans that really follow the team really were boosted to see, some local products on the field that night contributing.
What do you see from Reynoso? And we've talked about it along different steps of the way. When he wasn't here, when he rejoined, working his way back into the first team, coming off the bench as a sub, coming as a starter, scoring goals. Now we're seeing, we all know what he's capable of on the pitch. But do you think he's back into where his full form and his full fitness and exactly where we're used to seeing him be? I mean, we saw what he did against Portland, but in general, and you're out at training most days, do you think he's right back where he left off last season?
Well, I think he's getting there. I think certainly the trajectory of being out so long and being 100% sharp, 100% fit mentally, physically, and probably wanting to make an impact consistently for 90 minutes isn't like at the very top level, but there's no doubt, his ability to start where he trained and got fit and then had some small minutes and then played more significant minutes and now is kind of starting and hopefully on that trajectory for really significantly impacting 90 minutes is exciting because when he's sharp and he's on his game, he's such a difference maker, obviously, in terms of, the space he creates, how he opens up, how he builds in. But even more importantly for me was there were some times in the first half we were chunky, and he chose to really push defensively, push and close down the goalie and get our shape up, get our lineup, making sure that even though we weren't quite moving the ball the way we wanted to, we were sharp in terms of our back four getting up and making sure the battles that we won or lost were in the middle of the field. And then when the space opened up, he was outstanding. He really, really created a lot of opportunities for guys. So for me, I still think he's on the path. I still think there's much better to come, but it was really encouraging to see him play so effectively the last couple games, not only in terms of goals and assists, but like I said, all the other little things in the field.
Well, and then when you look at his combination play and sort of trying to find his groove with Sang Bin, and Adrian had mentioned that too, like it's going to take some time, sometimes to get that chemistry and understand just the fluidity of the play. And now you've got another new signing coming in Timu Pukki, who hasn't, he's still working on some of the paperwork and maybe back in town, maybe available this weekend. But what do you see from him? How is he going to fit into the fold? What is a signing like Timu Pukki kind of signal to not just Minnesota United fans and the fan base, but even to the league when you commit to a player of that kind of quality and that kind of pedigree, not just with the Finnish national team, but over in Europe as well?
Well, I think it's incredibly exciting. I mean, there's no doubt this group and these guys have put a ton of effort and energy into the first half of the year. We've had a lot of adversity, from injuries to players missing to just navigating how we're going to build a team that can be competitive in this very, very competitive league. And that balance of offense and defense is massively important. And there's no doubt the first half of the year, we had elements defensively that were outstanding, and we at times played well, particularly on the road offensively, to kind of get some really good, tough wins in the road. But it still is evident that we are still trying to find that balance of being more consistently dangerous, creating more chances, and taking over more parts of the game. And I think Pukki lends a lot of things. I would say his experience, the ability to, have been through a lot of scenarios of helping a team get better in an area where they've been struggling a little bit, is really the most exciting thing for me. Obviously, he's a player that has played at a world-class level. He has played at a club for a long time where he's super impactful offensively. He's also impactful, bringing guys into the game. He's impactful holding up the ball. And certainly his finishing is top class. So to me, it just elevates everybody. It's just a signing that really connects a lot of our goals in terms of our ambition, in terms of moving up the table and being one of the better teams in the West in the league.
And from an international standpoint, international call-ups, the Gold Cup still going on, Nations League, which the United States, the U.S. men's national team won as well. And I believe that in the Gold Cup, the next round, USA is paired against Canada once again, to my knowledge, if I saw the bracket right. So what do you make of so far the international call-ups, how they fared? I know Rosales and Dane St. Clair clearly for Minnesota United. Were you surprised that Arriaga wasn't called in? I don't know any of the scoop behind that, but I was a little surprised that he wasn't brought into Honduras as well.
Yeah, I think he was nursing an injury right before the call-up, so that gets a little bit tough because he hadn't been playing a lot and he was still maybe not quite 100%. He's still kind of working his way back to full fitness and really getting back to making the impact he did more last year especially. So, that's a part of this game, which I feel for the guys and everything. Injuries are such a tough part of this business where when you're not fit or not 100%, you can't quite contribute the way you want to. But certainly, I think the positive side of Arriaga is I think he's back on a path towards full fitness. I think he had some really good moments in the game. Physically had some good challenges that really kind of helped us close the game out the right way. Joseph, I think, has done well. I think he was put a little bit at left back, which was intriguing. He is kind of Mr. Versatility for us anyways. He kind of his ability to absorb playing in the center midfield, playing wide left, playing left back. So I think it was really encouraging for him. The minutes he's gotten has been really impressive, I think, with the team. And Dane got the start last night. And, that was a big win for them to get through their group and to move on. And now probably has a good chance of playing against the USA, which is a really big matchup.
Yeah, when you think of, and you look around this league and the difference in the Gold Cup roster compared to the Nations League roster and the changeover a little bit from some of the European players to some of the more MLS-based players just based on the calendar and who was brought in and whatnot. What do you make of the current, sort of form of the U.S. men's national team and players like some of the MLS players who do get this opportunity to shine? And some of them were on the CONCACAF Nations League roster as well. But what do you make of that when you see them perform the way they're performing? Jesus Ferreira, I know, had a couple goals the other night. Vasquez, Zimmerman's always in there, whether it's on whatever roster. But what do you make of the men's national team form? And then we didn't mention that they're coming here in September once again at Allianz Field, which is always fantastic because, man, I think they've got a pretty warm welcome every time they come here.
Yeah, I'll start, and all of this now is putting me on my U.S. soccer fandom hat, which I love because I think it's been an amazing month for the national team. I think, you go through spells when you're not doing so well, or you're going through a cycle after the World Cup where you're not sure where the team's going in the direction. Obviously, from a leadership standpoint, at the top level, you have an uncertainty about even who's going to coach the team, and I think all of those things kind of had built up, like, where is the national team going? And I think in the last month, it's been really fun to see the growth and the development of the top level players that we have now, and then the base of players that are coming up. And really, to me, it's so exciting for the 2026 World Cup because it's showing that we're doing a lot of things in this country. We're building a great base of players. I think we're growing some elite players that are playing in some top clubs, and I think that's only going to get better. So for me, as a U.S. national team fan, it's been a fun month to watch the different groups, the different players step on the field, represent the country, play with a heart and determination that I think we need no matter what, who's on the field. And then no doubt, I think over the next couple of years, these young players who are now going to become experienced veteran pros leading in 2026 is incredibly exciting. I know there's going to be some down moments, and we're going to still have to really push that group and to be ready for 2026. So I'm not saying, oh, this is gonna be so easy, but I'm really encouraged by the Nation League's run, and then obviously the current run of energy and effort and quality that the current group is showing against the Gold Cup is really fun. And I think just to bring it home for us, announcing September is significant because I think the national team and the men's and women's side is undefeated. I think they've come to really love Allianz Field. I think they've come to love our community. I think they really appreciate and embrace that we are all about doing whatever we can to help them competitively have a great environment, competitively train well up to the games, and frankly win. So I'm incredibly honored that the national team, is looking to come here again as part of their trajectory to grow and get better. And I'm really excited to have the game because I think it's another example of how special Allianz Field is, and it's another example of what our stadium can be in the future for the U.S. men's and women's national team.
Yeah, I think when you say that, because there's so many opportunities for different places that both national teams can go to, whether it's for friendlies, for games, for qualifiers, for matches, for training, and the fact that they continue to choose Minnesota and they continue to choose Allianz Field, I think says so much about what you guys have done up there at Blaine at NSC with the training facility and their ability to train there, but also at Allianz Field, and just the support and the fan base and the energy and the vibe that they get from the entire city when they show up here and the second they step off the plane or the bus. So I think that says a lot. And I'm sure everybody's already looking at how they can get in on those tickets, because those are going to go fast. Whether it was February 2nd and it was -20, or whether it's a beautiful fall night in September, which I'm sure it will be, they're going to go pretty fast. So I'm sure everybody's excited about it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
And then I was going to say, last but not least, I don't even know if I've gotten to ask you this yet. And I know technically he hasn't signed a contract yet, officially. But what does it mean now for a player like Lionel Messi to come to this league, at this moment in time and choose MLS over other options? And then what would you most compare it to? When we could talk about, everybody references Beckham because, of course, that was MLS. But even going back to Pele, in NASL, what does that mean for this league at this moment to have a player like that? And how do you see that sort of transpiring into the league as a whole?
I mean, it's always hard to predict the future, but certainly as a kid growing up and watching those stars, I got to watch Pele live, Franz Beckenbauer, Johan Cruyff. Actually, I got to bring up my favorite was Ace Nestlingwe, and I love the synergy of Bongi having such a great year in the South African connection. We chatted the other day about Ace, rest in peace. It was really sad his passing away, but Bongi knew of him. He's a cult hero there, and there's still elements of Ace in this community from his contribution to the Minnesota Kicks back in the 70s. And I just think it's an example of how exciting and where this league is going because of the infrastructure of stadiums, operationally, how the leagues are running. The quality of the product is getting better and better. So to me, the timing is so appropriate to have such a superstar like Messi, because I think the league is ready to accentuate what we're doing on even more of a national and global scale. And I think Messi recognizes that there's so many little elements of where this league is going and what it's doing that I think he wants to be a part of that. I think he wants to be a part of something like this, which is, you can't quite describe it, but it really is a special time and place and moment in soccer in this country. And there's no doubt the time and special place and what Major League Soccer is now versus what it came from. But we're also at a point where we know we're not where we want to be. We want to go and be one of the best leagues in the world, which is the kind of ambition. And to have somebody like Messi choose this league tells you you're on the right path. And the league is going somewhere incredibly special.
And I think to that point, I mean, I think that's just like the perfect way to put a bow on it, because we don't know where it can still go. Because I don't know if you would have asked anybody, in 1996 or whenever, like where you thought this league would be today in 2023, if we thought it would be where it was today. The path wasn't linear and there were ups and downs, but it's always been progressing in some way, shape, or form, right? And then even you look at last night, the El Tráfico, 82,000 people or whatever it was at the Rose Bowl. So, and that's just like, it's crazy. And you and I have said this before, and we've had this discussion, both being from the Twin Cities and being from Minnesota, that even still to this day, when you sit in Allianz Field, it's hard to imagine that you're in St. Paul, Minnesota, in the Midway, knowing that the incredible history that Minnesota soccer has and where it's come from and where it's going. And it's all part of MLS and where it continues to grow. And now Messi is truly going to be a part of that. And he's currently, maybe some would argue, but maybe the greatest player in the world right now at this time. And he's choosing this league, and it'll just continue to help it grow and attract more attention to it.
Yeah, I really like how you brought up the game last night, 82,000 for a league game between, two rivals. Gives me chills. It's unbelievable. I've played in the Rose Bowl many times, and it is just such an awesome stadium and such a great platform, I think, for the world to see the league and to enjoy the competitiveness and the reality of rivalry within the league and the teams. And then I really like that you brought up Saturday and Allianz Field, because to me, you're exactly right. It is still, and probably will be for my lifetime, surreal that we, Minnesota United, Twin Cities, St. Paul, Allianz Field, is a part of this journey, a part of all of this trajectory, and a part of it, not only like kind of on the fringe, but right in the thick of it. We have one of the best stadiums in the league. We have one of the best environments in the league. And a lot of it has to do with how awesome our community is, how committed our owners are into integrating soccer into this amazing global game and into MLS, where it's going. So the stadium was rocking for a lot of reasons on Saturday. It does have to do with the play on the field, there's no doubt. But I think it's also, our fans are so appreciative of the fact that 10 years ago, we could have never imagined being right in the thick of this awesome journey of growth of soccer in this country.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Manny. I appreciate you taking the time. I know you're a busy man, and I appreciate you popping in here and kind of giving a recap. I know we just covered a lot. I feel like there's a specific rundown that's kind of in an order of things, but sort of the way my brain works isn't that way. So we kind of bounced around to everything and hit it all between the men's national team. And I didn't actually though, about the women's national team. We got to, like, you. We got a Women's World Cup coming up here.
Yes.
In a short amount of time. And I don't know, do we see a three-peat and 3 in a row here for the U.S. women?
I mean, I love the storyline because the women have been amazing. The consistency and the level and tenacity that they've played at to kind of let the rest of the world know that we are the best in the world and we're there to win World Cups. And I think that mentality is awesome. And it's really something that it gets you excited and is really special. But what's really cool about the women's game too is that I just feel like there's this global growth now, a little bit like how MLS is versus the global game, the men's side. You just see this explosion now of these countries that love soccer, and it's integrated in their culture, and they're really integrating women's pro soccer into the fabric of their culture, and it's exploding all over the world. So the competitiveness on that side, every World Cup cycle now just gets bigger and bigger and tougher. Which gets you more excited. I don't think the women want anything less than the toughest competition possible to win World Cups. And ultimately, I think it's going to be a great World Cup because I think there's even more countries now that are really competing at a top level, and they're really growing their domestic leagues, which is only going to make it a better and better World Cup for everybody. So I'm excited. There's no doubt. I mean, anytime you in this sport and you watch your country being represented is awesome. And the women have done such a great job. And, this will be a huge challenge. It's not going to be easy. I think the dynamics of traveling all the way halfway across the world, a different culture, a different environment is never easy to kind of, to win and compete. But again, I think we're setting the bar in the women's game, which is awesome. And I think they're embracing that. We're going to keep that bar high and hopefully win the World Cup.
It's funny. I was doing some prep work the other day, and I was watching Fox does these little features on different players and teams, and they're previewing each group and teams within it. And there was one story on Ireland, Republic of Ireland, and they were doing like an in-depth feature on them. And my daughter turns on and she's like, "Mom, are you crying?" I'm like, "Well, that was just like a really cool story." Like, so that's the other thing I always encourage people is with these World Cups, whether it's men or women, like the stories that get told for a lot of these countries and these teams and these individual players and the paths they've had to take to get there. And a lot of times it's more often in the women's game than the men's because of some of the countries. I was researching Haiti this morning, like, what they have to do to get to where they are and what they have to go through. And we heard about it a little bit on the men's side too, because they weren't allowed to play their games in Haiti recently, with violence and whatnot. So it's just like you see them and then you see them all arrive and like the emotion and wearing the crest or the badge or whatever it is for their countries. And a lot of time that's the part of that beautiful game that we love so much. And especially when it comes to World Cups on the men's and women's side, because you can just see what it means to these athletes.
Yeah, it is. It truly is a celebration of the sport, but it's also a celebration of our special cultures throughout the world, and that coming together to compete, but also, kind of reminding ourselves that, we're all part of this big humanity world of trying to get along is awesome. It really is. So I'm really excited to watch the women's team and the games and hopefully our special run.
Yeah. Well, set your alarm.
Yeah. Well, we've done it before. There's been World Cups in Asia, so it's happening.
Yeah, exactly. It's happened. Awesome. Well, thanks, Manny. I appreciate you taking the time. Enjoy the rest of your day. The beautiful weather we have outside right now. It's absolutely stunning outside. So enjoy the day. Good luck this weekend. You've got Austin, I believe, coming to town. So
Yep.
another good test here and another great crowd, I'm sure, at Allianz Field. So appreciate it and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
All right, everybody, stay tuned. I have Tom Bogert from The Athletic coming up next in segment number 2. The newest chapter in the rivalry between MLS and League MX is coming to Minnesota this summer. The 2023 Leagues Cup arrives at Allianz Field July 23rd when the Loons take on Club Puebla in their first group stage match. Just 3 days later, a date with Chicago Fire will wrap up MNUFC's group play. For more details on this new competition or to secure your tickets before they're gone, visit MNUFC.com today. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Sound of the Loons, segment number 2. This time I get to be joined by national beat writer for The Athletic, Tom Bogert, still rocking the mustache. I don't know if you heard, but Devin Padelford of Minnesota United, shaved his mustache the second he got a shout out from you.
Oh, that's
how do you feel about that, right? He gets his MLS debut in a regular season game and off went the mustache. I said his girlfriend or his mom must have told him he needed to get rid of it or something.
That's usually how it goes in my experience. My mom more so than girlfriend in particular, who's because I think when me and my girlfriend started dating, I had the mustache, so there was no bait and switch. She knew what she was getting into. But yeah, no, that hurts a lot, and I hope that me putting a spotlight on it, just trying to support him, I hope that didn't contribute at all. I'm sure it didn't, but yeah, I was very happy when I saw him check in. I was like, who the hell is this guy? He's his handsome devil, and now it's gone. That's sad. She's still handsome, but it would have been better than mustache, just out of selfish reasons.
Yeah, he came on the podcast shortly thereafter. And I was just thinking about it because I asked him about it right away. And then also I was thinking I think that he's kind of one of those guys that I feel like maybe he goes against the grain. He thought he was kind of out there, but then the mustache, the second he got attention for it, he's like, I'm going to go in another direction. Who knows? But either way, it's all good. So first and foremost, thanks for taking the time. As you and I were both sort of multitasking before we hopped on here. lot going on, in the soccer world, a lot going on, and just in the world in general. But how's the time been for you thus far at The Athletic? What's that been like for you? I know you always don't, put down your phone unless you shut it in a drawer anyways, or go somewhere there's no signal. But how's it been so far?
Yeah, it's been good. It's been great. Look, I've always viewed The Athletic as the gold standard. So it's I'm joining here. I was very humbled and very happy, but comes with a lot of internal pressure to make sure that I live up to these other great writers. So it's been a lot going on. It's been a lot of fun. I just moved last week, so new job and a new apartment, a lot of other stuff. So yeah, it's been a lot to handle, but it's all great fun.
So what's been the best thing about it so far? What's been different for you? Is there anything, or is it, like you said, just, is it accessibility? Is it, as we all know, sometimes when your name comes attached with a certain, whether it's a network or whether it's a publication, sometimes it pulls a little weight with it. What's been the biggest change so far for you?
Yeah, for sure. It's been nice to not have to describe, because I was at MLSsoccer.com, the league site, to now, everybody knows The Athletic, everybody knows the league site too, but it's, to people who maybe aren't exactly familiar with the landscape of MLS or super intimate knowledge. Like, wait a minute, you work for the league, or what? Some people, it's funny, would be thought, when some sources at the beginning would be like, oh, so you must work with the league office. I'm like, no, so they'd be complaining to me about why a contract wasn't getting done. And I was like, I don't even know who does that. I don't know why you're complaining to me. So I'll say it's been nice to just, there's no confusion here with The Athletic.
It is kind of funny though, because even in, whether you work for a team or you work for someone else, especially in soccer, it's amazing how you can get some complaints in your direction and you have nothing to do with what is happening. And it happens across the board in just about every industry, I'm sure. But just, give me your thoughts overall on how you think this MLS season has shaped up for the league. When you do your sit down predictions, when you're looking at percentages to win and the odds and all these things, I mean, has it followed the script, or there isn't really ever one for MLS? But what was in your mind, how we were going to be sitting here as a league at this point in the season, at just past the halfway point?
Yeah, that's you hit it perfectly. There is no script for this league. I'll make fun of myself. I was really high in FC Cincinnati, and I was really high in another team. And I was going back and forth these stupid predictions and stuff that you do. I was going back and forth. Who am I going to pick for the Shield? And then my man, Matt Doyle, went out and did the Cincy Shield. And I was like, man, I'm one or two with them, but I don't want to make it look like I'm just copying what he did. All right, whatever. And then the other team that I was like, you know what? I really believe, and it was the LA Galaxy. So they're second to last place. And so, you know what I mean? There is no expectations. This team, it's the same exact team prior to the injuries, but pretty much the same exact team that got to the conference semifinals last year and almost beat LAFC, the eventual champions. And then they come out this year and they've just been off. So it's there is no script. I guess the big picture stuff that I'm happy about is obviously the Messi deal to Miami. I'll be I was really confident about it in December. And then
really? That early, yeah.
Yeah, because they've been working on this for a long time. And some of the things I was hearing was yeah, no, it's definitely gonna happen. And then you see the numbers that Saudi Arabia clubs are offering. And then you see it's Ronaldo went there, and then Benzema, and then Conte, and it's oh my God, we're Messi isn't gonna come to Emma. This sucks. I was looking forward to this. So yeah, I went from super confident to oh my God, how do you turn down $1 billion over 2 years or whatever the contract offer was? So I'm really, really happy that he's coming. It's a tremendous opportunity for the league, tremendous for casual fans and just Messi fans, whatever it is. I don't know, it's the only thing that it can replicate is the David Beckham and the way that David Beckham transformed the league. It was in a different spot. It was him helping push a lot of the infrastructure that's pushed. And now the league is in such a different spot than when Beckham came. And again, this Messi deal doesn't happen without Beckham, both in the sense of when he was as a player and now him being a part owner of Inter Miami. So those parallels are pretty cool for me. But the league took a big jump with Beckham, and it's ready to take another jump with Messi here because the infrastructure is already so high and so good.
What do you think about all the in between there? I mean, that's a huge stretch of time, right? Between David Beckham joining the league and then also now Lionel Messi, who's in a different spot. Maybe you could argue in his career, clearly coming off a World Cup win and being legend, everything for Argentina, and just being still at the offers he was being given for other places. But the gaps in between there, what do you make of? Has the league always been moving forward, you think, since Beckham joined? There was no 2 steps forward, 1 step back, or what? How would you categorize it?
Yeah, I mean, it's no progress is linear, but like again, you just take it at face value. It's like when Beckham came in 07, and like you just look at the salaries, you look at the infrastructure, you look at some of the dumb things that the league are doing, quite frankly. Like Beckham comes on a bum ankle and he's being pushed by every business interest to play in friendlies on a very injured ankle. And that was his first season. And he played, a handful of games. It's great timing. I'm reading Grant Wall's phenomenal book, The Beckham Experiment. And so it's like, it's been really cool to see those parallels of just like, oh, wow, like this is so different than what it used to, than like what it is now. And it's just like the way that he pushed to get the Galaxy and the league to let them charter planes. And like even as recently as 3 years, that wasn't a thing in MLS. And so it's just like that's one way that things have been pushed. Like the hotels got much better, that the team's just saying, and the money's gotten much better, all of that stuff. So just like off the field, the infrastructure is what's really different. And again, that took time, and that was helped pushed by David Beckham and helped pushed by just general league growth. But like, man, like look at a lot of these training facilities, not like the stadiums we can all see. They're incredible. Allianz Field, like it's beautiful. Getting to be there for the All-Star game last year is phenomenal. Like it's just as great as it looks kind of in pictures and stuff. You go down the line, St. Louis, Cincinnati, Columbus, all these new stadiums, all these beautiful new stadiums. But the stuff that we like, a lot of people don't see, the training facilities. Again, players are obviously going to be optimistic and talk about it because you're not going to come out and be like, yeah, this new team I signed for, their training center sucks. I can't believe I did this. But like, to a man, everybody you talk to, they kind of go out effusive with their praise and be like, look, like, it's not like this. Like, I was Sasha Kleshin. We were on Extra Time together recently, and he's like, dude, like, Anderlecht, like, I was back there recently, and it's like, it hasn't upgraded that much, like, since it was like a good facility, obviously, but like, it's like, dude, then like, compared with the end of my career with the Galaxy, it's like almost night and day. It's just like crazy how quickly the infrastructure has gotten better. And like, you look, Chicago, I think they're spending like $75 million on their training facility. Like New England's a state of the art. Cincy, like all these new ones, LAFC's is gorgeous. Like it's crazy. Like this isn't, it's not like say like Liverpool, Manchester City, probably, but like it's better than a lot of like European clubs. And I don't think that people are like really understand that or maybe even ready to admit it.
And I think that's a great point, because even when you talk to a lot of these international players and players that, to your point, have maybe been here and gone overseas and come back, is like, that's one of the first things that they comment on. It's not just the first of all, the fact that we have all these incredible soccer specific stadiums, and that that there isn't a bad seat in the house in almost every one of them that you go to, but also the training facilities, because it is kind of like, and I don't want to reference when we're talking about soccer, because I think it's such its own unique entity. But when you reference an American sport as in college football and a recruiting tool, I mean, very much so. Or even with academy kids and homegrowns, and wanting them to sign with you and not go elsewhere, they see what you're putting into the money and the energy you're putting into those resources, you're putting into those areas. And I think it makes a big difference on where these or national team games now, people have to have certain facilities if they want to host a friendly, if they want to have training facilities where the national team can come and train, because that's a huge draw, So I think all these things that, and it's all kind of spurred and started from what MLS is doing at the top to trickle down to these other areas.
Yeah, no. And like, again, that's the driving force. And that's like, I don't know, you can get a Beckham maybe, or you can get a Thierry Henry or whatever it is, like just the top end guys, like if the money, the generational changing signings, like again, they're huge signings, all of that. But like that, if the infrastructure isn't there, it's just going to be one-offs. It's just going to be case by case basis. Like what's different now? And like you said, with the level of talent that are being produced by academies, like obviously academy production and youth development takes time. So like the money that was going into academies in the early 2010s, like when, again, Beckham was still here, and like the way that the league is growing, and like we're seeing the fruits of that labor, like this, like the United States does have a golden generation in like the literal sense that this is the greatest group of talent that our country has ever produced. But it's not a golden generation in the sense that, all right, when these players retire, like that stinks. That's it. It's over. Like the conveyor belt of talent that comes from this infrastructure. And in turn, the players who aren't making the national team who are in MLS are really, really like much better than the talent that was being produced. Like the bottom of the roster is so much better. And that, again, and then the money to help with, international or players coming from abroad, like all these things work in conjunction with each other to push the league forward. And again, now you're getting Messi and like the Saudi Arabian league, I'm not an expert on this, but like from what we're seeing, it's like Ronaldo was their Beckham signing. And like, it's obviously a huge transformational signing for them, and the money's wild, but like they have to start with their infrastructure, and they have to start with where MLS was, say, in 2007. Again, this is I want to be careful that I'm not the be all end all in the Saudi Arabian league, but just looking from the outside, is that what it seems like to me? And the difference is for where MLS is right now is that we're 15 years like past where like we were at that point. And who knows what'll happen with Saudi Arabia, whether it'll be more like the Chinese Super League that never, really had sustainable power, or it'll be more like MLS or maybe even surpass MLS. Who knows? But just like it's been really cool to kind of see the baseline rather than kind of the top end for MLS right now.
So last thing before we switch over to Minnesota United, just to kind of dive in a little bit more on the Messi situation. And that sounds funny when you say it that way, but Messi with an I on the end, not a Y. But when you look at what he is going to do, was the coach signing in Tata Martino as important as, once you to my knowledge, Messi hasn't actually signed a contract yet, right? But technically, we'll speak in terms. We'll speak in terms of that. Was that signing almost as much as important for Miami as it was once you knew that you were going to solidify Messi and or Busquets and or these other players that are going to be coming in and joining Inter Miami, because you got to get that one right to help it. Yeah. I mean, they're sitting not in a great spot right now.
Yeah, no, Tata Martino, like it was, to my knowledge, like the best realistic manager they could have hired for me. Like, again, I'm a huge fan of Tata Martino, but like how many managers in the world have the combination of he worked with Messi, he has a big enough name that has cachet in that locker room and with players, and also not only understands, but like loves the idiosyncrasies of MLS. Like he won MLS Cup with Atlanta. He built a lot of what Atlanta, like, because he has so much sway over personnel decisions, as he should, because of how good of a manager he is and how his reputation and all that. So like he helped a whole lot for Atlanta. Like I believe it was Miguel Almiron, but like several players in Atlanta said this when it was like, I didn't know where Atlanta was on a map. And I don't mean that in any disrespect. It was like when Tata called me, I said, tell me where to go. I'm in. Like, so his name has so much sway, like with like he's somebody who will be able to connect with, say, a Messi, a Busquets, and maybe Jordi Alba, but he's also going to be like, unearth the Yamil Assads or the Tito Villalba and like insert all these kind of players from South America that again are so crucial to this team being successful. Like the top end is good and you'll be able to get players to play with Messi. But the Gregories, the Jean Matas, the whoever else that they're going to sign in that middle of the roster is going to be so important. And Tata Martino is, again, for me, the perfect manager. How do you see the rest of, you just mentioned a couple of the guys already on the roster, and maybe you're thinking, you're looking at the middle third of it, but how about like a player even like Martinez, like Josef Martinez? Like, how does that work with him? I mean, he was brought into Miami, to have like a fresh start, but he clearly spent time in Atlanta. So how do you think he fits into that? And how do the puzzles fit around a player like Messi when you come to MLS? What does that look like, you think, in their mind when he steps on the pitch? Yeah. I don't know. Like this is, it's just going to be crazy. It's, and again, like we were talking about some of the offers and just him coming at all, but like, could you imagine like $400 million a season? That's incomprehensible levels of money. Like that's insane. And again, it's just so surreal to me that he's going to be here. Like, I don't even know what kind of expectations, both in terms of like entertainment and like the literal. And again, we have talked about, we're going to keep talking about it like for months and months. It's just, I don't know. I struggle to even conceptualize it sometimes that like, again, like I was saying before that I was really confident in December, but like, even at that, like you can't really understand like how big of a deal this is and how crazy this is. He's the best player at the World Cup. It's the best player in the world 6 months ago. Like I don't know. It's just so many good things running through my mind that I don't think I gave you a good answer there or really a direct answer, but it's just kind of where my mind's going.
Well, and I think we kind of knew what it was doing for the league the second that it was announced that it was a real possibility that he essentially was coming here, when we saw ticket sales and we see people showing up at stadiums and traveling thousands of miles, and he's not even here yet and he's still on vacation. So it's kind of, it's kind of funny, but anyways, yeah, I mean, this is one of those moments where I was like, oh, he's in Soldier Field on October 4th. If he comes with Miami, it's 60,000. You know what I mean? I've been getting all the Chicago Fire games. I'm like, God, I hope I get that Chicago Fire game. We'll see what happens. I'm sure you as writers and also as, broadcasters, like everybody's doing the same thing. I mean, who doesn't want to go to a Lionel Messi game? I don't care who and what stage in his career is playing at. Talking about Minnesota United a little bit. big signing with Teemu Pukki and yet another number 9 for Minnesota United to bring in. And I asked Adrian Heath about it last week. Like, what is this number 9 different than any other number 9? Where, you've brought in a number 9 before and kind of said some of the same things and said, this is going to be the guy. And, look at the goals he scored in other leagues. I understand that Pukki scored it in different leagues and maybe some of the others. But what do you see from this? I mean, did it seem like a real point of intention from the club when you're bringing in a guy like that, even though he's 33, but the top leading goal scorer still for Finland?
Yeah, and that's the thing. So what makes him different from Luis Amarilla or Angelo Rodriguez or Adrian Hunu? I feel like I'm going to forget somebody along or whatever the rotating cast of center forward since Christian Ramirez. Pukki has done it at higher levels. He's done it more consistently. He's done it for longer. And yeah, there's concerns about a 33-year-old striker, but like that's, I don't know. It's not a winger. It's not a fullback. He's not a center back. Like, we've seen really quality strikers age very well in this league. Like MLS was a different league at this time, but a decade ago. But Robbie Keane, like I think he's like kind of the apex kind of version of this. Is that like he was, in his early mid 30s or like a similar age to Pukki when he came, but like he's like a similar play style to me, and not to be like too reductive at just like two guys who scored a bunch of goals in England. But like they're not like he's not been over reliant on like athleticism, right? Like he hasn't been over reliant on like skills that will deteriorate rapidly at his age. Like, I don't know. I'm generally optimistic about signings, to be fair. But like, I'm really optimistic about this one. Like, again, your strikers cost money, goals cost money, and proven like this. They went out and got a proven center forward. Like Norwich were, in their 2 years in the Premier League with Pukki were awful, and like he still scored 11 goals, I believe, in each of those seasons, and like they were defending 75% of the games all the time. So like, I don't know, man. Like you put him with Emmanuel Reynoso, it's just they've created more chances than I was aware. I had to challenge my own like eye test by checking like the advanced match or underlying numbers. And again, maybe this is game states and stuff. If you're trailing, you're going to be attacking a lot more. But they created a lot of chances even without Reynoso, and like. This team, more than anything, for years has needed a proven goal scoring center forward. If he starts 28 games in a season, you're expecting 15, 18 goals. And like that's the barometer for this kind of signing. And again, like they went out, they tried. I liked the idea of the Hunu signing. He was, a rising, mid-20s or whatever in prime. Somebody played in France, but like it didn't work out. There was risk. There's risk with every signing. And this comes with the least amount of risk for, any of these other names that I've mentioned.
Yeah, and as and I think Adrian he said it as well. He's in a position, Teemu Pukki, that is still wanting to continue on with the men's national team with Finland. He's still, he's got his career is still in front of him. He still wants to continue to grow and be a part of that. And of course, having Robin Lod here, even though he's out injured, makes a difference, I think, in just communication and just letting him know like what this league is all about and what the team is about and all that kind of stuff. So at the end of the day, I just want to talk real quick about the Western Conference, because we saw last night, LA, El Tráfico, LA, and 80,000 people in the Rose Bowl, and just another one of those milestones within this league. And it's an LA Galaxy team that, to your point, is pretty terrible on this season and has had some issues, but you always know you're going to get a game. And then, it's this tight and condensed schedule. I mean, Galaxy just played on Saturday, I believe it was against San Jose in their other El Clasico. And then all of a sudden here they are on a Tuesday playing again and bringing it. So when you look at the Western Conference and how it's kind of shaken up, because that's what Minnesota United fans are going to be focused on here down the stretch. And then also, once again, just the point of where teams and clubs are ending and where they've started and what the expectations are. How do you see the Western Conference shaking up, and where do you see Minnesota, even with the, the extension of the playoffs, kind of finishing up here?
Yeah,
I mean, it's home games left on the schedule for them. Sorry, I just wanted to say that. They started out with more on the road than they did at home, but
and that's such key context, because like again, like it's a basic point, but like in this league, it is much more difficult to win on. It's very difficult to win on the road. So like the more home games, like that all counts. And like with how tight the standings are, like Minnesota are a point below 9th and 6 points below 4th, right? Like and a couple games at hand on some of these teams. So like we could be talking 4 days from now and they could be in 7th, right? Or whatever it is. So like it's like just looking at 11th, like that sounds bad, but like the Western Conference is so jumbled, and it's going to be so much fun to watch the jockeying kind of happen for the rest of the season. So like, again, having more home games is really key context to have. So yeah, I'm not sure how this is going to shake out. Like again, between, I guess I would even throw Portland in that too, like 12th to like 5th really with Dallas for me, like, 3 of those 8 teams or whatever, if I'm doing quick math off the top of my head correctly, like 3 of those teams are going to miss the playoffs. And like, these teams like on their day are all really pretty good, range from pretty good to very good. It's just about consistency. So yeah, I have no idea how this is going to shake out and who's going to fall. You know, Vancouver, I thought, has been one of my favorite teams to watch, and I thought that they've had, you know, real good quality, and like they're sitting here 1 point ahead of Minnesota and Kansas City, like just above the line. Like it's, I don't know, like it changes every few weeks, and this is a league where it's both frustrating in a sense that like you can have, you know, a really bad 2 weeks or a really great 2 weeks and like thoroughly change things, but it's also fun in that way that like at any point, like you know, the Galaxy right now are probably in the locker room after Tuesday night's game saying like, look, we're only, air quote, only 6 points below the playoff line. Why can't, like, who cares if all of these players are injured? Who cares if we suck? Who cares if we're missing all these center backs? Like, we're 6 points below the line and we have Ricky Pooch and other teams don't. So like, why can't we get to the playoffs? So like, this is I don't know. It's going to be a whole lot of fun over the last, you know, few months of the season.
It is funny that you say that, because it is, at the end of the day, it's about consistency. You know, I would have thought Colorado Rapids would be well above where they are right now, especially with the coach like Robin Fraser. I know they just signed Andrew Gutman got him from Atlanta United, but you know, Portland Timbers have been up and down. They have a slew of injuries, just got crushed at home by Minnesota here, you know, last weekend. So yeah, but then, you know, Minnesota goes on the road and gets crushed by Montreal. It's like, it's just this crazy league where you just never know what's going to happen. And that, I know we say this every time, but it's the beauty of why we love this league. It's nearly impossible to predict, but that's what keeps people tuned in is the sort of manufactured parity and the fact that anybody could beat anybody on any given day, regardless of what the roster looks like with international call-ups and otherwise. So yeah, it's we'll just have to tune in. You said it changes like week to week. I was like, it feels like more like day to day or hour to hour. Like, you know,
with all these midweek games, man.
Right, with all these midweek games and, you know, injuries popping up, disciplinary committee, you know, international call-ups, Gold Cup. I mean, it's like, it's not really like, it's like a day to day, hour to hour thing where you just got to keep an eye on it. So, and I can only imagine how much your head is spinning when you've got all this going on inside your brain. Like, do you wake up at like 4 a.m. and like think, oh my God, I have to do all this stuff today?
Yeah, I try really hard to like not pick up my phone, like see how long I can go when I wake up without picking up my phone. Doesn't usually last very long, but like, so that's
well, and then you're just like thinking about how long you can go without thinking.
Exactly.
So it's like,
it's a self-defeating.
Right, exactly. Well, to that point, I'll let you get back to your other real job rather than joining me here today. But I appreciate you taking the time as always, and keep an eye. Where can people find you? I mean, I know where to find you, but where can people find you if you want to give a shout out to The Athletic, and then of course your Twitter handle and all that jazz?
Exactly. Yeah, just see me on The Athletic, read, click, do whatever. Appreciate it. And then Twitter at Tom Bogert.
Awesome. Very cool. Thank you so much, Tom. I appreciate it. Have a great rest of your day.
Cheers, Kyndra. You too.